morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
It's Office Hours Early Edition, as always, with my friend Blaine Bartlett, mentor Blaine Bartlett. You can tell it's early because the B's are difficult for me to say. Exactly. Learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM. That's the Mindset Market Mastermind. But I will tell you that my community is loving your mastermind. I just will put that little plug in there. I'm getting great feedback from everyone that's coming over. And we are blessed this morning to have woken up, and he looks wide awake. We're on the West Coast. I'm not sure if Keith Dezern is or not, but today's going to be what I call an exciting topic day, because the topic that our Chief Revenue Officer of Engagency is going to talk about is such an important issue. Everyone's been for years talking about the Gallup poll of the importance, Keith, of being engaged. What I want to start out with is something that's interesting to me. Is I've given up on the idea that I grew up with, which is our employees are going to be with us for life. On average, the greatest companies in America have, somewhere between 7 months and 9 months average of employment before they move on to something else. And I think that we're going to see an upswing because of it in being engaged, because of those short-term employment stints. I know at Engagency, you guys deal with this every single day, especially how entrepreneurship has helped build Engagency. Give me a little bit of your perspective on the importance of this idea of Engagency's enterprise technology platform and how it's going to assist us.
Sure. So, Engagency as a services business basically leverages various technology offerings to help out with digital marketing and product development for Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. And entrepreneurship to us is kind of a way that we do business every day. And I know I don't want to be too buzzwordy, but essentially, like we require employees that we hire to come in to have that mindset, to be flexible, to be able to pivot. They're not looking for a 9 to 5 where they're just gonna plod along and punch the clock and just do their job day in and day out and not be more invested in what we're trying to do in the mission that we're trying to accomplish. You hit the nail on the head with the short-term nature of employment these days, and the job market has become hyper competitive. It always has been in tech, but now it's even more so. The pandemic pressures, the people not wanting to go back into offices, and how this has affected us is we're responding to that. We're responding to what we're hearing from our employees and what enables them to have that entrepreneurial mindset. We just sold our building in Austin, Texas. So we are going completely virtual. We're going to have some virtual office spaces where, basically in any city we can get together. We'll have centers of sort of excellence, as we'll call them. So we have Austin. I'm opening up a new location in DC as well, which is where I am. I'm not quite as tired as you guys, maybe. But the point being is that we're reacting to the labor market and to the needs of the type of employees that we have to hire and the skill sets that they have. And this work doesn't have to be done sitting at a desk or sitting at a cube. It's flexible. You can do it on your own time. You can do it anywhere. So we have employees that are actually, traveling around and working, literally out of their travel vans, right? So sort of working out of a van out by the river, we call it. But it's working because as long as you got a good internet connection, you can work anywhere. And so we're really pushing that and enabling our employees to work how they want to work so that they can continue to kind of stick around with us a little bit longer.
One of the things that this, I think, speaks to that I think is really interesting and challenging for businesses today. I was in a conversation with the CEO of Junior Achievement Worldwide just the other day, and he cited a statistic that was fascinating to me. He said, today's worker entering the workforce can expect to have upwards of 27 jobs in his or her career, and they will have at least 7 different distinct careers in their lifespan. working lifespan. Now, when I heard that, I mean, the 20 some odd jobs, I can get my head around that. It's kind of like, okay, I mean, I look at my own self and I kind of, okay, there's been a lot of transitions. But the distinct career component of that statistic was fascinating to me. And this is where I'm going with the question. It sounds as if, one of the things that Engagency is doing here is helping organizations redefine what a job actually is. And ultimately, in that context, redefine what a career ends up being. Would that be a kind of a fair assessment of what I'm hearing you say?
Well, yeah, in a sense. I mean, we're doing it honestly to remain competitive in the job market. I mean, if you don't offer this, you see surveys time and time again across companies large and small. If you start requiring people to go back and sit in an office all day, they're going to leave, because there's too much opportunity and demand for a more remote working lifestyle. And then there's also just simply the demographic. I mean, in the tech world particularly, it's a younger demographic that's doing this work, that's learning the skills, that are going to meet the demand of the future, whether it's AI or e-commerce or whatever it is. And we have to respond to how those employees want to work, or our competitors are going to hire them. It's not just about salary anymore and benefits. You actually have to enable your employees to work how they want to work, which is, it's a definite mind shift in the employment world. I mean, we even go so far as that we pay for national park annual passes, right? We tell our people, like, go out in the parks. If you want to travel and work from where you are, we don't care. Get your work done, hit your deadlines, and you can work how you want to.
And, through all this, I'm curious because we've ignored engagement as, to me, the key indicator of productivity. And so, throughout the years, Blaine and I have discussed the high percentage of people that are not engaged. And, they worried about engagement with remote working. And I laughed. I said, you can't get any worse than like 90% of the people not engaged when they're sitting in the office. So,
Exactly.
It was something that was just ignored. And I kept, as a consultant, telling, the executives of Fortune 500 companies, imagine if we could just get to 85 or 80% engagement in the realm of productivity. For your 7,000 employees, imagine how many hours of productivity that is, even if they stay at the same level of intelligence and skills and knowledge. You're going to have an incredible boost in your economy and your revenue and your bottom line. What hurdles or resistance or obstacles do you see? I see my young daughters working remotely, and there was a lot going on in my own office that I saw. What are some of the things that you see that do still, get in the way of, that engagement and productivity as you're at the national parks and moving from hub to hub?
Well, I think, first of all, people have different personalities. You've got introverts and extroverts, and some people need that culture and to be around other people. And so we have to figure out a way to take that in the larger context of being remote. And there are some tasks. I mean, you got to be on site with clients sometimes, when that's a thing again, when we're actually getting together and meeting a lot again. That is another aspect that, being fully remote and, out in the woods, that doesn't really work. You kind of need to be near an airport sometimes. So one of the ways that we've, from a culture perspective, that we're trying to focus on moving beyond owning our own office spaces, we're going to get together on a regular basis, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, get the team together in these centers, maybe once a year, get everyone together somewhere, and then have that connectivity and that engagement amongst each other, because you can't fully lose that. I mean, if everyone is remote, people need that interaction. They need that feel of the team, and not having a building and not having that expense, we can actually do some pretty interesting things. I mean, we can meet in lots of different cities. We can go to Miami in the winter. We can go to San Fran in the fall. Whatever it is, we can go there and kind of meet and bond and do what we need to do from a business perspective, and then also have a little fun at the same time.
The catch basin here, I guess, kind of the bucket that I'm hearing you addressing is, you're working with organizations to design an experience that is engaging, ultimately.
Right.
Yeah. And work becomes an experience that is engaging, not an experience that I want to run away from.
Correct. It's not a lodestone. It's something you enjoy.
And Blaine, you make a good point there. I sold my building as well, Keith, and laughed my way all the way home during COVID, because I had a law building, basically because I was in the sports agency marketing. It was basically your basic law firm building. And, I started realizing that another option of engagement is, I have fun offices now. So I have an office at SoFi Stadium. I have a studio at the Wynn. I have, another studio that I use. So although I allow people different days to work and give them freedom to work remotely and to travel, with internet connection, that's the only requirement that I have on, hey, work from anywhere as long as you're connected. But I have found that engagement has gone so high that, I've never seen so many people want to rush to work when we're meeting at the stadium or at the Wynn. So what do you think about the future of these, kind of like the Starbucks model of offices? Hey, coming to work is itself an experience when you have in a group, in a workplace setting of something fun to do, that even if you're just, renting it for a day, a fun place to all get together and work.
Absolutely. And that is a model that we're looking at with Spaces, the company Spaces or Regis, or, there's all of these virtual office companies, but, the buildings that they have and the areas that they have tend to be really nice, and for our workforce, they've got, coffee on tap, maybe a beer, they've got good open office, floor to ceiling windows. So these are generally places that people want to be together and they want to meet. And you've got the flexibility, once you set up a relationship with these companies, they're everywhere. They're in every major city. So, your options are unlimited as far as where you meet, what kind of space you want, what you're doing when you get together. I think that's the future. I mean, if I were going to invest in any business right now, it's probably a virtual office business, because I think that's the direction that things are going.
I absolutely concur with that. The nature of work is changing. I mean, it truly is. When work becomes a lifestyle choice, employers need to pay attention in a different way. Because truly, I was talking with a guy, WD-40, the lubricant I was talking to their CEO and chairman yesterday, and they've got a retention rate, they've got an engagement rate, and they've been doing engagement surveys with the company for 20 some odd years now. Their engagement hovers at around 93%, and they are publicly declaring that they want a 95% engagement rate. And they're operating in 173 countries. It's fascinating how they're paying attention to this, and it's all around quality of experience. It truly is. And this is a manufacturing company.
Right.
You've been around since 1953. These guys have cracked the code in a very interesting way.
And that's unique. I mean, manufacturing companies, I built a couple of e-commerce practices around manufacturing, and they last to innovate on anything. When it comes to culture anyway. And so I think that's interesting. Another bit of feedback that we heard, it's just quality of life too, of people. Yeah. Most of our team is based in Austin, Texas. And I'm sure, as you know, Austin is just a crazy boom town right now. And so traffic was miserable, and people are like, well, if I can spend an hour in traffic every day, or, we can get together as a team in some virtual space between 10 and 2 o'clock, and then avoid the traffic. And, so that quality of life is another thing that really played into, giving people flexibility about where they're working.
Well, we appreciate everything that you're doing with guiding us in a great direction on how to keep the engagement and retention rates high, which is a great challenge today, especially in the pandemic. And I agree with you. It's an experiential trust in our employees that will keep our employees engaged. Engagency.com. Thank you so much. We will have you back, Keith, for waking up early. Not as early as us, I guess.
Not as early as us.
Chief Revenue Officer of Engagency, Keith Dezern. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Right on.
Have a great weekend.
All right, that was topic number one that I wanted to talk about. And now topic number two, we have our friend Brian Esposito. He is the CEO and co-founder of Esposito International Enterprises, and he has his new Nodal.
Nodal,
And
yeah.
Nodal is a holding that's taken over the world. Brian, first of all, you're not in DC, I don't think. Where are you?
I'm in Central Jersey, right on the Jersey Shore, Asbury Park area.
Central Jersey,
okay.
That's a good place to own real estate with the exodus of Manhattan. That's for sure. People probably lining outside your door to buy your house.
Yes, they are.
I bet. But you recently with Turncoin and Exchange, you're supporting some of my good friends there. I see Drew Brees, Pat Mahomes, Randy Jackson. Give us a little bit of background on Nodal.
Sure, and thank you, David. Blaine, pleasure to meet you. So Nodal and Turncoin are one of my holdings. Over the last 20 years, I've built a holding company. There's presently over 75 different holdings in it. I've accumulated over 150 joint ventures around the world and operating in over 25 different industries. So with that being said, this chapter of my life, I love to take those 20 years of getting my ass kicked and those learning experiences every day you can imagine, and finally finding a home of why all that made sense. I went through every experience you can imagine. I built a great arsenal of resources, assets, relationships, and great accounting, great legal, and great compliance. So now I get to work with startups, even up to Fortune 500 companies, and create real tangible value. I don't like the idea of unicorns. I don't like the idea of unsustainable valuations. I like real business models that are based on positive earnings and a multiplier that the market can handle. So with that being said, Nodal and Turncoin are two of my most coveted holdings. Nodal has become the world's largest wireless network without building a single cell tower or a single Wi-Fi station. We're connecting hundreds of millions of devices around the world. Millions of smartphones are connecting to IoT devices. So there's a good chance on your gentleman's cell phone, our Nodal SDK is sitting in some of our app partners' mobile applications, our own Nodal Cash app. And every time you walk past an IoT device, so that would be a Bluetooth beacon or some sort of Bluetooth device that's broadcasting out data, Nodal's a global network that can pick up that data, move it to the cloud, and then the demand for that data is quite exceptional. We believe there's more value based around the devices around your mobile phone than what advertisers think the user profile is, and we're proving that to be true. And the other one is Turncoin. Turncoin's 5 years of development. It's the rollout of the exchange. There's going to be all different sub-exchanges. So think of the athlete exchange, the sports exchange, the esports exchange, the actors exchange, the business exchange. Every business model you can think of will have its own exchange. And then people inside of those different businesses will be able to monetize their popularity for the first time in their life. So they take all of their fans and followers and supporters and have the ability to own a virtual share in that individual. It opens up tremendous monetization. The celebrity or the influencer or the athlete gets 90% of those revenues. The exchange gets 10%. And then what I love even more importantly is it gives the ability for amateurs or people that want to enter into those businesses the chance to fuel and fund their career. So they can go to their friends and family, supporters, peers in that industry, and they can go and say, hey, buy a virtual share in me. I'm going to be a pro tennis player. I'm going to be a pro golfer. I'm going to go into this different type of industry and be a celebrity, or I want to be a musician. So many, many years of work doing things the right way is usually the long and more expensive way, but we got great legal. We're working with all regulatory agencies and compliance, and we think we got a real home run here.
Anyway,
sorry, I threw a lot at you guys. I've been ready to go.
Yeah.
Wayne doesn't have his coffee yet. He's stuck.
Yeah, I haven't had my coffee yet. Yeah, the gears in the brain are just kind of grinding here a little. The idea of inventing a place that has never existed before. David and I are going to talk about this a little bit here, but buying a virtual share in me as an example. I mean, who would have ever thought that there would be a market for something like that? Number one, and then number two, how do I go about actually leveraging that market in a fungible way? I never get tired of talking to entrepreneurs, who are on the cutting edge, that have identified a niche that said to them, "There's something here," and they went, "Okay," and they listened, and they actually started leveraging what they were listening for. What? And I'm real curious here, Brighton. What got you? Because this is a really unique space. What got you running in this direction? Yeah, because you've got a number of different enterprises there. Personally.
Yeah, no, I love that question. I'm to a fault open to the world. I'm looking at opportunities all the time. And I always say every action or lack of action or decision leads to where you are present day. So speaking with you gentlemen, I think 1,000 decisions prior that led me to be on this call with you guys. So the same thing happened to me with Turncoin. I was asked to speak in Dubai Investment Week in 2019. Flew out there, gave a great speech, but I was following the inventor and founder of Turncoin, Rudolf Markgraf, and I said, "Oh God, I got to follow this guy." I was in awe of what he was discussing. How it came to be. He was sitting in a pub one day with a friend in South Africa, and the guy said, "I knew this soccer player or this football player was going to be a star. He just got $100-something million contract. We need to build something that I can invest into that person." I knew they were going to be somebody. And that led the gears going. And I love to be that, conduit. I used to laugh. People used to call me, if you're calling me, you're really out of all options, because the way that I think and the way that I operate and the way that I strategize is a little bit different than the norm. And then I realized, hey, wait, there's a lot of value in the way that I think and how I can get people to solve their problems and how I can open up certain doors for people. So 15 years, I did not monetize myself correctly. And then I really kicked in 2016. I met Rudolph in 2019. I said, hey, listen, I want to be involved. What do you need? Guns on the table. How can I help? And then I'm all in. If I believe in somebody or something and I love the team and I think they've got great morals, family values, and ethics, I'll give you 100% of me, as long as I believe that you're going to give everything you got to make this venture a success. And then since then, I provided support, opportunities, certain relationships, certain great celebrities that'll be coming on board to promote this thing. And we're doing it the right way. It's the long road, but like we got Drew Brees is a global ambassador. He is all in and fully supporting this. Patrick Mahomes from the Chiefs, Randy Jackson, American Idol talent. Then we're going to keep rolling out what we believe are the top 5 people in every different exchange to give it that boost, that credibility, and that mass exposure. So you're going to see top 5 people, actors and celebrities and musicians and entertainers. And then the business side, which I'm really excited for, I would love to be able to go on LinkedIn and see somebody that I think is going to be a rock star entrepreneur and be able to click a button and buy a virtual share in that person. And the fun part kicks in after they sell. I'm for sale too. And what I really love about it is, this is a theory. And I don't want to make fun of like the Lindsay Lohans or the Britney Spearses of the world, but I do believe if you attach a value to something that somebody can see in real time, I think they're going to make smarter decisions. I think they're going to be more wiser about where they go and put themselves in different situations. Will they say yes to taking that deal? Will they say no? Will they go and party this late night with all these people and have this visibility and exposure? I think it's going to be a gut check to putting people in a better path. And again, that's just my personal theory.
That's an interesting point, because you essentially make it attractive to be a role model, and I'm talking here specifically for these public figures. Yeah, I mean it's more than an image. It really is. There's a fungible. I mean there's a transactional component to what I do in my life, because people have shares here, and my shareholders are going to be invested in what I'm doing.
It's going to be interesting. And the key fun fact is, after everybody gets 1 million virtual shares, when they sell out, they trade in the open market. So think like a public stock, that the market demand and the value. And if you win a World Series that year, your popularity goes up. Ideally, your virtual share price will go up. And obviously the good work that you're doing and the exposure that you're getting for yourself.
Fascinating.
Brian, and I know Blaine and I are going to have a little session on time, space, and gravity after this, but it's so interesting to me in the traditional sense of community and marketplace. We had, such a confined area to create a marketplace and to create a community. And, obviously I've been working with celebrities, athletes, and entertainers longer than most people, besides Lee Steinberg, I think. And that was the firm that I ran. But we were always confined, by some sort of, hard boundaries. And then today with your network, which then opens up all boundaries. And then, of course, in exchange for the limitless boundaries that we create, it's all about community. And all of these things are great ideas, but you have to have a massive community in order to truly take advantage of the exchange. But I think people discount the value if they have a small community. And I think, where I'm focused in on is allowing people to speak to their frequency and their spectrum in a smaller community. Take a corporation in logistics, where exchange occurs, and how can we reduce the amount of cost in the stack as we pass goods from end to the consumer. And all of these things, are happening so quickly. How do we, number one, educate people? Because most people don't know what an NFT is. They don't know and understand, how an exchange like yours would work, let alone they're still catching up on when you talk about, an ecosystem of connected devices and how important the data is. There's a massive amount of information, and 90% of the people on Earth are still, beyond understanding. And the 10% that do are really already monetizing it.
Exactly.
I was, spoke last night with Dan Fleischman and the Elevator Studios, and there's kids there making 7 and even 8 figures. And Forbes Riley and I were sitting there looking at each other and going, "Is that real?" And I'm an open-minded, open-hearted, open-handed person. I'm like you, I'm wide open to this stuff, but there's so much information. I'm just trying to figure out, NFTs and NIL and crypto, and I'm just trying to figure out the critical business issues. How have you been able to stay aware? And two, how do you think we can educate everyone on that?
Yeah, I think about that often. It's accessibility and easy use for anything. Like when you're talking about logistics, asset tracking for Nodal and the wireless network, that's the biggest use case. In North America, there's 2 billion pallets move around the country a year. That's a lot of goods, and then they have no idea. There's never been a way of tracking those goods in real time throughout that entire process, especially in some mom and pop antiquated trucking companies where they have a bill lading and they got to sign off for it. So there's a little bit of a delay, but with a very low cost Bluetooth beacon, we can track those goods in real time. You can locate them in warehouses. Clorox, for example, I think they do 40 million a year in destroy and donate just for lost goods in their own ecosystem, in their own warehouses. So there's a lot of opportunity for technologies that are easy to use. If something you can easily download onto your phone and you can understand it and you have a utility of it. I always said crypto is not going to be mass until I can go to a food store and buy my bananas with it. That's when it has to be so easy for people to understand, scan a code, be able to have that utility. To answer your question, there's a long road of that discussion and education before people adopt it. I think there was probably many years before people felt comfortable downloading or going to a website online and buying a stock. It took a long time for people that fully trust that experience, know that their data is safe. Is it safe? Right now, we're like, hopefully. A few years ago, Target had a massive hack, and everybody's credit card information got stolen. But it's funny.
Look, we can't even vote online, right? We
Right.
don't even. We're fine wiring tons of money now online. That's not a problem, but we can't even vote. So you nailed it.
Yeah, it's easy use, accessibility, and what I do love about I love the household. My earlier career was I built a big beauty company. In the late 90s, I built the first B2B, B2C e-commerce platform. And I'm always thinking, what can happen in the household to spark conversation and to spark a bond? So what I do love about this giant gap in understanding and technology is you have kids and grandkids hopefully having a moment sitting down with their mother or father or their grandparents and saying, hey, look at this. This is amazing. Let me show you how we can do this. Let's get the family involved in buying these digital assets. Let's start to do things together, and you have that flip of script where you're not learning from your parents, but the parents are learning from their kids. And that's an interesting idea. Again, it's going to take time. People need to feel comfortable, and they need to feel safe, and they don't, and not stupid. They don't want to talk about it or even discuss it because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And we'll get there. And it's exciting times.
Yeah, no,
it's already happened. We just haven't arrived yet.
Yeah, it would, just like purchase. I mean, take it back to the basics, right? I remember so many years ago, my friends would not buy anything online because they didn't just trust the credit card part of it. They literally were terrified to buy anything online. And look how far we've come. Well, Brian, thank you so much for leading the way. Thank you so much for representing people that are over 17 years old in this space, which is very encouraging to Blaine and I, and CEO and co-founder of Esposito International Enterprises. EIE.rocks is where they can find you. Anywhere else people should reach out if they want to learn more, hire you to speak, put you on a panel, or have you consult with them?
Oh, I'd be honored. I use LinkedIn and Twitter. I don't use any other social media platform. So Brian J. Esposito. I get back to everybody as quick as I can because I value that they gave me their time. So they deserve a little bit of mine. And I appreciate you gentlemen having me on today. It was a true pleasure and honor.
We need more guys like you on TikTok. That's all I got to say. So thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, guys.
Great to
Have
meet
a great day.
Enjoy the beautiful day.
Thanks, guys. Stay well. Ciao.
Awesome. All right, Mr. B, the double B,
Hey-ho.
and the place to be. All right, we're going to rock and roll for 15 minutes. I've been waiting for 2 weeks for this conversation. I'm going to let you lead off. I want to talk about time, which I study every day, space, which is obviously all around us, and of course, one of my favorite, the law of gravity itself. So go ahead, lead us off, and then let's do what we do.
Where we end up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to just kind of, something Brian said just kind of shifted a little bit about how I wanted to start this conversation and just take thought as a marketplace. And that's basically, where I want to, thought as a marketplace. And when people think about thoughts, nobody knows where thoughts come from. I mean, they just kind of pop in, and we've got about 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. The average person does. Now, what is a thought? Well, thought's just an electrochemical reaction in the brain. That's the mechanics around that thing. So that little firing mechanism is, this little thought triggers through. Now, because it's an electrochemical reaction, there's actually something in play here. I mean, and literally something in play. There's molecules moving, there's electrons moving, there's all kinds of stuff. And these things, because they physically exist, they have mass. And because they have mass, they have gravity. And gravity basically is associated with mass. The greater the mass of an object, the greater the gravitational pull. So all that being said, this is a very simple thing. Thoughts have gravity. Thoughts have gravity. And because they have gravity. Mm-hmm.
I said they have gravity, and there's two meanings to that, and they both apply.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now here's where it gets interesting, in terms of thought being a marketplace, in time and space. When people start thinking about possibilities, and I love the conversation with Brian because it really popped a couple of things for me. And we were looking at out there. Most people's goals live out in time somewhere. It's out in the future. And because it's out in the future, there is this space, that's kind of associated with that. So when do you want to have this happen? Well, I've got a 5-year goal. 5-year goal. Okay. Well, in the thought process, 5 years is out there a long way for most people. And so the gravitational pull of that thought, because it hasn't coalesced around that thing, is actually pretty weak. And as long as it remains out there in space, it also remains out there in time. And it becomes difficult to achieve because there's not a gravitation. And this is where the law of attraction starts to be kind of an interesting conversation. When you start moving that objective into experience, and this is, you start working with frequency. What's the frequency of that goal that I'd like to have attained in my life and that I'd like to be manifesting? I start entertaining it in the context of my thought structure, my feeling structure. And there's a whole dynamic that begins to occur in my body that begins to up-level the frequency at which I'm operating. Those frequencies also have a gravitational component to them. And when I start moving time and space internal, as opposed to having it be external to me, I start creating gravitational pull. And when I start eliminating past and future from my conversation, and I start experiencing all that there is a now, and everything exists in this now. I may not be experiencing it, but it all exists now. All I need to do is up-level my frequency, and when I move my frequency band, because I automatically begin to move the gravitational pull of who I am, because I move myself up, or just metaphorically up. I'm changing frequency structure, and because I'm changing frequency structure, I begin to change identity. My mindset changes, my identity changes, And identity for an individual has the greatest single gravitational pull in their life. That's the thing that actually works. Yeah, my identity, my mindset has a gravitational pull that attracts whatever it is that I'm actually experiencing in my life today. So by changing mindset, by changing the way that I view future, eliminating future, I begin to move it into present, into the experience of now. That whole gravitational dynamic kicks in and it becomes an attractor. And it becomes an attractor not to bring something new in that has never been there, but to actually manifest what's always been there. And that possibility now becomes a reality. So, in the law of attraction, we'll talk about, the law of vibration, but the thing that we're continuously missing in my experience is a conversation around the gravitational pull of it. That's why I think thought as a marketplace becomes a really interesting meme to play with. What's the gravity of my thoughts?
And to add to that is one of the things, that is listed there to me, which ties this all together, is the idea of time, and where, for me, this all makes so much sense. And understanding the present, understanding now, understanding accessing and manifesting and attracting, all are determinative upon one frequency idea. And that is this, that the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. Speed of light is what determines the 24 hours of activity that we're given in the present, right? We live on this earth presently, physically, the mass embodiment that we're given lives on this earth under the context, the man-made construct. That took me a while to wrap my arms around what that meant, but the man-made construct of time is based on the speed of light. Now, when you realize what Blaine's talking about, this frequency, this leveling up, that the speed of thought, because not only is it in a mass that has gravitational pull, it's actually quantitatively measurable in also speed or frequency. The only thing, right? The speed of thought vibrates or has a frequency higher than the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I talk about focusing and refocusing as a multitasking, because you're actually bending time with that. But even moreover, it eliminates, the speed of thought eliminates time. The speed of thought, and if you don't believe me that it moves faster than the speed of time, then go ahead and think of something 3,000 or 30,000 years ago, and it's real. And then think about something 30,000 years from now, and it's real, but it's present now. It has a mass now. That thought about the dinosaur, that thought about Moses, that thought about, the trillion galaxies and flying there by blinking your eyes, as we did, in the 50s with Genie, or, blinking your eyes and going like this, that actually was time travel at its greatest, because that thought travel as a marketplace, right? And I think this is the continuum that we're stuck in right now, is that we're starting to realize, as they're selling virtual, worlds, they're selling real estate and leasing real estate in virtual worlds as we speak. To me, that blows a lot of traditional people's minds, but it doesn't mind, because your perspective is your reality. And if there's a marketplace in thought, then why can't there be, truly a token or a price to put on the community of thought?
Yeah. People, our experience, our real world experience, quote unquote, real world experience, is a linear experience. Yeah, it's past, present, future. It's linear. So people's default mindset is, when we're going to achieve something, we need to go. And in that linearity, there's a cause effect. How did I get here? Yeah. Well, I did this, I did, and that created something. I did that, and that created something. So there's a cause effect, and it's the default way of thinking. So if I'm going to look to where I want to go, I typically will default to what's my first step, and that linearity, involves taking time. How much time will it take me to get to that outcome? Blow that up. All there is now. My thought has gravity and frequency field. We live in a frequency field. This is where we exist, is in a frequency field. up-leveled the frequency, and it doesn't take much time to do that, but I have to get integrated. It's an integrative move. Yeah, I have to live it, breathe it, smell it, taste it, touch it, in my thought. And that's where the gravity begins to come in. When there's that condensation that occurs, that granularity begins to be felt in my body, that's where gravity begins to really be a pull. And you talk about bending time space. Yeah, gravity, it does. I mean, it will bend space, and time shortens.
And this is, I'm going to intertwine one more thing, because faith is so important within the construct. Faith is so important in construct of understanding that the speed of thought moves faster than the speed of light, that gravity, time, and space all can be a benefit, not a resistor. Right? It can actually propel us. And I'll give an example where I have applied it through the lessons that I've learned at BlameBartlett.com, is why the law of gravity was so important beyond understanding that everything has mass as it holds energy. And then, of course, once it has mass, the law of gravity applies. But where faith comes into the play here is that if you understand the law of gravity, and anything that has that electrical charge, that emotional charge, anything will have a gravitational pull. The faith comes in to say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at the right place at the perfect time. Then the law of Goya connects it all. That says, in something I love that you keep reinforcing in my life, right? Nothing happens until it moves, Dave. You got to have activity. Get off your ass. You can't sit there high on your mom's couch dreaming about a Ferrari. I don't care if you're Sadhguru, Deepak Chopra, or Master Shah. It doesn't matter. You got to get off your ass and do something. And so the law of gravity then applies with this law of Goya. But then again, faith comes in to say this: as you raise your awareness and level up your frequency, you're going to be aware of resistance, void, shortages, obstacles, pain, struggles, setbacks, mistakes, and failures. The faith itself will tell you, hey, terrific, I'm accountable, right? Outside of the realm of liability, I'm accountable. I have obviously attracted this from my activities. What am I supposed to learn from it? Now, it's interesting, if you take abuse for a 9-year-old, for example, it's distinguished by the 9-year-old is not liable, right? Because he's being abused. But the accountability is at a higher level in a scientific means, that either through past lives or this realm of timelessness, it's been attracted to the 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And the only way to solve it through faith, because faith will allow you to angle to what you want and learn the lesson. And then the law of attraction puts us into a better place. And that, again, takes that faith. And so how does faith to you intertwine with time, space, and gravity?
Faith has gravity.
I love that.
Very simply.
Explain that real quick. We got 2 minutes. I'm going to let you blow everyone's mind. I want you to write it down. Everyone that's listening, faith. And when Blaine says gravity, think about this. That word is not an accident. So when something has gravity, obviously it puts you at the right place at the perfect time, but it also has meaning.
Yeah.
Right? Gravity means meaning as well.
It does. I look around and I don't see what I say I want, but I have faith that it exists. I have faith that it exists. It hasn't manifested itself in my experience, but I have faith that it exists. And I hold that faith. Thought has gravity in the same way that faith has gravity. I hold that. I build it. I amass it. And in that amassing, that gravitational pull becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And what already exists will now manifest if I'm holding faith that it does in fact exist. Faith is the belief in a reality that my senses tell me doesn't exist. That's essentially what faith is. It's the belief in a reality, and belief is the key word here. It's the belief in the reality that doesn't currently exist in my sensorial experience. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does exist. And to let go of that basically abdicates any energetic pull that it's ever going to create.
Yeah, and the energetic pool has no meaning. In other words, it has no gravity unless you believe in limitlessness and infinity, that everything already exists in this field of intention, or in this field of
Yep.
electronics, or this field of energetics and genetics, genetics being the conduit of energetics. And so for me to understand, the degree in which someone has faith will determine the strength of the pole of the timelessness.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's why, in the religious context, people love to put labels and try to define things so they can understand it better. But in the end, whether you believe in secular religion or not, you need to have faith. And that faith allows so many things in our life. Well, we're going to have a part 2 of this, and this is an incredible start. It's like drinking through a fire hose. It's amazing. I'm going to finish this with you, Blaine, because we get into these deep conversations, you and I, not just with each other, but with other people and our mentors and mentees. But when I go to events, it's still so interesting to me. Some people, nobody comes up to me and says, "Oh, Dave, the ideas that you have about time, space, and gravity have changed my life." Most of the time, people come up to me and say, "Man, you changed my life." I say thank you before I go to bed.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we're it's not what we say, it's what people hear. And even though you tell me that you say thank you when you go to bed, thank you itself
Has
has
gravity.
gravitational pull and faith. Gratitude is the highest form of faith. To say, I don't really see it there, but I know these things are happening. I don't understand them, but I'm so grateful. I'm not taking for granted what other people are wishing for. And that happens every day. Blaine Bartlett, I'm so grateful for you. learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM Mindset Mastermind, moving possibility to profit through time, space, and gravity. Thank you so much, my friend.
You
I
bet,
appreciate
buddy.
it. Have a great day.
You bet.
Love you. All right. Last but not least, we're rocking and rolling. I'm on my way to Indianapolis for summer camp and to move my daughter back into school. Look at that haircut. Look at the mustache, semi-shaven. Kevin Palmieri, Alan Lazarus. Check that out. I almost got it into my subconscious, Lazarus. We're there. Lazarus is the deliverer in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the beloved servant. So you and I belong together. And Palmieri is the chef, right?
I'm the muscle, Dave. I'm the muscle of it.
All right. My buff brothers, the health of all wealth, the Next Level University. You guys are not together for the first time in a long time. So that must be a good sign that things are going well. All right. Let's show people how we rock and roll. We got a full 30 minutes or 28 minutes to rock and roll before we I'm on my way to SoFi again. My new office is incredible. So when you guys come visit, no more hotel room throwing up beds on the wall for us to get together. We'll be in the greatest stadium ever built, SoFi, in my new office and podcast studio there. All right. Who's going to lead off and show people how mentoring should be done?
Shall I do it, Alan?
Oh, yeah, man.
So, Dave, obviously one of the biggest parts of your story is losing everything early on. And something I don't know that I've heard you talk about is how you, and if you had to, forgive yourself. Like, how did you forgive yourself? What was the process for you getting over that?
Oh, great question. And yes, sometimes I still have to forgive myself because I get stuck in the realm of, oh my gosh, if I had that, especially now, like every time real estate goes crazy, I think about all the real estate I owned, right? And then I got to forgive myself. Or I'll say I should have bought that. Oh, it wouldn't matter. I would have lost it anyway. That's like the saving grace. My wife's like, we could have, should have. I'm like, yeah, I would have lost it anyway. And so, what good is it in 1993 if I bought that high rise downtown? Yeah, whatever. So forgiveness is through the 5 daily practices and my values, right? Gratitude gives me the perspective of finding light, love, and lessons and everything. So if I actually have the mindset, heart set, and hand set to find light, love, and lessons, it automatically is a forgiving attitude, right? Because you can't love or find the light and love in someone that's attacking you, or in a food that you naturally, don't like the taste of, or an activity that you naturally at its surface don't like, or a person that rubs you the wrong way. The minute you start to take the perspective of finding light, love, and lessons, forgiveness is absolutely necessary. And the only way that we can give forgiveness is to have it. And so then we lead to, okay, I have this perspective of time, space, and gravity, as Blade and I were discussing before you guys got here. But I have this, attitude of abundance, of an infinite, limitless world. Well, now I have to forgive myself when I'm not in the flow or in alignment with that. I'm creating interference, void, shortages, and obstacles. I need to forgive myself. And then it makes it quite easy, right? I love that word gravity today we were talking about, right? Gravity is the acknowledgement and awareness that everything has mass, that has energy or emotions tied to it, energy in motion. But even moreover, gravity means meaning. And so as we give meaning to everything we see, and if that meaning is not one in which is reducing the interference, but creating it, forgiveness is the washer, right? It cleans away the interference.
Mm-hmm.
And because it gives us control, then we can move on to accountability, which says, okay, I did this either in this lifetime, past lifetimes, or future lifetimes. Liability has no place here in blame, shame, and justification. The best thing to do is not waste my time in the interference of blame, shame, justification below the line in the interference world of ego-based consciousness. But moreover, I am accountable because I am searching right back to the lessons to grow, accelerate, and expand, to have peace. And guess what? When we execute on the feeling of accountability at peace, forgiveness is in action. So those three in the continuum execute to create effective communication with the greatest source of energy, light, love, and lessons, and through appreciation, forgiveness, and accountability, adding value to it and giving it away to others to help them do the same, to clear the interference, not just between us and the great source, but us and everyone else, to empower them, to empower others to do the same, exponentially creating a collective consciousness of a higher vibration or frequency. And this, to me, is an essential part of every single thing that I do. And it's not just once. You can't just say, oh, I did this, I forgive myself, right? That's what I think so asinine about, some of these horrendous perpetrators of truth. And, they're, on their deathbed, in jail, being put to death, maybe even. And, in one statement, they seek forgiveness, by accepting Christ or whatever. Just because you say that doesn't mean you've cleared all the interference that you've created, right? And just because you say I forgive myself, it's just the same way to say I want to quit smoking because I quit smoking today. I've now quit smoking. We all know that the conscious continuum doesn't work that way. It's a good start, and maybe you'll get some break in the universe as your body expires here. It's a good start. Maybe you're sending a story or a lesson to yourself for your next lifetime that you're going to start off in a different place without the, unconscious competencies that have created you to create interference and harm others or attack others.
So just to clarify on that, so basically what you're saying, Dave, is that so some people say I forgave myself and they're done, right? And that's what's frustrating because it's it's a practice.
Yeah, is one of the biggest. Gratitude is a practice. Forgiveness is a practice. Accountability is a practice. And effective communication is a practice. And the way that you practice is instituted into the 5 daily practices by saying, today, this is what I want personally, experientially, giving and receiving. This is who can help me and who I can help with it. How I'm going to get it done by understanding productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, studying our calendar, utilizing efficiencies, effectiveness, and statistical success, and then determining through the what, the who, and the how, the now, which is the time, space, and gravity that Blaine and I were talking about. The now is the process of prioritization within the alignment of my what, my who, and my how. See, most people, I know when somebody is executing on a what, a who, and a how, they are people who can make decisions quickly and they can prioritize by what's most important because they actually know what's important to them because they've taken the time to practice the what, the who, and the how. And now they're practicing prioritization, which is determining what activity has the most value in my day. And that's what I'm going to do now. And when that doesn't happen, or it does happen, here's what I'm going to do next, determine upon the what, the how, the who, and the how. And then if you do that, you're blessed. Why? Because once you know the what, the who, the how, and the now, you can apply your why. You're not in search of your why. See, you apply your why. Your why is that connectivity, the greatest source of love, light, and lessons. Your why is how you feel. Your why is the desire that you must be what you can be, to do your best, to expand, grow, and accelerate. You apply that to the what, the who, the how, and the now. See, when you have nothing to apply why to, you're in search of why. So people get confused and they think, well, I'm not finding. Well, you can find light, love, and lessons in everything and apply your why to it, from taking out the trash to any activity you get paid for or any activity you don't get paid for.
So what you're saying is, don't get lost down the rabbit hole of trying to find your why the whole time. So I was listening to it was a meetup that you gave in 2018 that you just repurposed on the playbook. And you basically said, go up to somebody and ask them what they want. And you'll be blown away at how few people actually know. And so what you're saying is that people are trying to find their why, what's my purpose? But if you don't know your what, you can't actually even apply your why anyway. So start with what? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And then the fastest way to the what is the who, right? Someone who can give you directions to exactly where you want to be because they're there already. Then the how becomes, Bob Proctor-esque. If anyone studies Bob Proctor, he doesn't worry about the how.
Right.
Right? Because the how is a matter of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. The how is a matter of studying the activity you get paid for and the activity you don't get paid for. The how is created by angling to what you want, by learning the lessons faster and faster. And if you know your what and your who, you can learn the lessons faster and faster. And then the guidepost, the GPS, is the now, right? What to do now. See, when you have the aspect that I don't know what I don't know, I'm not going to take myself so seriously, but I'm going to give everything I have, that I must be what I can be, right? I have that law of Goya in place. None of it takes effect unless you know the what and the who, then the how, and then the now itself prioritizes all of those, and then you can apply your why. You apply your why when you're moving, when you're executing. You can't apply your why when you're sleeping. Right? What we can do is download information to help determine our what, our who, and our how tomorrow, but it's not going to apply our why. And it's an interesting, chasm that people get caught up in. Is so many people on earth are in search of something that they can't find because it's already inside of them. It's already there.
I love the analogy you used, Dave, of somebody loses their keys in their house at 4 a.m. and they go outside and look under the street light because that's where the light is. I absolutely love that analogy.
Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer.
Yeah. Dave, you talk a lot about asking and attracting. And I think Alan and I have gotten way better at asking and attracting. Where do you think the resistance from receiving comes from? Because I think that's a little bit, Alan and I had this conversation the other day. I think we have a bottleneck when it comes to receiving. I think we're better at asking. Where do you think the resistance from receiving comes from?
All ego-based consciousness, it need to be separate in some form. Either a need to be superior or a need to be inferior. And those needs, manifest themselves that I'm not worthy of it or I don't need it. Right? See, when you change the construct of receiving to I receive so I can give, when you truly grasp this concept, you're going to be as excited about receiving as giving, because, if you had a Ferrari and you loved it, right? You loved the Ferrari, but you had no gas. As far as I know, there's not an electric Ferrari right now. So if you had no gas, what good's your Ferrari? See, but when you said to yourself, I love the Ferrari and what the Ferrari needs is gas. Therefore, I am going to be so grateful to receive gas. I want gas so bad, right? I don't really want the Ferrari. I want to help the Ferrari by giving it gas. And so when you realize that we love each other, right? We're here to be of service and of value. And I want to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. In order to do that, I need to receive happiness.
Right.
And I need to shop for the right things that can buy happiness. And whether that's allowing someone to have opportunities, allowing someone to have an inspirational, educational awareness, or whether it's someone happiness is provided by providing them sustenance, food, education, whatever it may be. I every day am so fired up to receive, and even more excited because I get to give it away and realize what I receive when I give it away.
Go ahead, Kev.
I was just going to say, where do you think the need to feel inferior comes from? I think the need to feel superior makes sense, but what's the why under somebody needing to feel inferior?
Comparison is the thief of joy, my friend. So when we are comparing ourselves, it's one of the biggest lessons I've been teaching this last week, right? So many people take for granted what other people are wishing for, right? We're taking, and this happened to me. I was keynoting with Mike Tyson in Chicago last week, and one of the better speeches that I've ever given. 2 people left crying, an inspirational speech, and I step off stage and a woman collapsed and was breathing very heavy. And then as I kind of walked around and let people help her that knew what they were doing, there's a doctor in the house, etc., the lady screamed that was helping her, "Oh my God, she's not breathing." At that moment, the 1,000 people in the room immediately realized we all were taking for granted what everybody was wishing for at that moment, right? A breath. And that's happening every day during the pandemic, that people are realizing, gosh, I'm taking for granted what other people are wishing for. And within that construct, that makes us feel inferior and separate than anything else, because we're not worthy. If we're taking for granted things, we're not worthy of other things. And when we have appreciation, forgiveness, and accountability, when we believe that we are living in the realm between limitlessness and infinity, and all we have to do is clear the interference, we now don't feel inferior. Because see, if you think that you are supposed to attract things that don't exist, or you have to make it happen, then if it's not happening, you must not be worthy of it happening. If you haven't attracted it to yourself, you must not be worthy of it. And then that other people who have it already, you must be what? Inferior to the people who have what you want. Instead of elevating and celebrating others, not creating resistance, void, shortages, obstacles, and separation of others, which makes us feel inferior, superior for no reasons at all. But when we're connected to and through everything and everyone, we're elevating and celebrating other people. And now we feel what? Connected to and through them, not separate, inferior, superior to them.
So, Dave, in the context of comparison, when it comes to feeling inferior, I think what happens to a lot of people is they'll compare a weakness that's unconscious. So unconscious competency, subconscious, conscious, they're comparing to someone else's strength, their weakness. And if they were to do the opposite, they would realize that they're not inferior. So from your perspective, how do people make sure that they're not comparing someone else's highlight reel and their natural unconscious competencies to their own things they weren't necessarily born with, right? I mean, Kevin can spend the rest of his life trying to be as tall as me. It's just not going to happen. That doesn't mean he's any inferior. Just like I can try to be as strong as him or as muscle bound, but he's a mesomorph. I was an ectomorph. So
Right.
What's from that perspective, from that lens, can you explain where this inferior superior thing comes from? Because I think it stems from that.
Yeah, I think it's relative to that, right? I'm not sure it stems from it. And I'd like to always point out to people, be careful in the words that we choose, because if we are now saying that it stems, that means it grows from that seed. It actually, is just relative to it. And let me explain why, because weaknesses and strength are relative to the place that they are. So if, for example, your height is a strength on the basketball court,
right?
And, Kevin's height is not, it is a weakness. But if I put Kevin in a middle seat on a commercial airline, his height is a strength and your height is a weakness.
Yeah.
And in the realm of things, you're not a professional basketball player. And in a realm of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, the amount of, strength of benefit, Kevin has an advantage or relative advantage over you if you're flying 200 days a year and not playing basketball 200 days a year.
Right.
And so when we start realizing and appreciating, adding value to, and celebrating each other and elevating each other, because to elevate others is to elevate ourselves. To celebrate others is to create a celebrity of ourselves. When we start realizing the connective tissue that we have that's not necessarily apparent with the human eyes, okay, there's a connective tissue that we cannot see. Why would one branch compete with another branch? We're all on the same tree.
Right.
And so when you can shift your mindset, heart set, and handset of what we give and receive to truly believe and understand that your height is my height, my shortness is your shortness, and that we have different capabilities. So if there is, an opportunity, we are trying to move people's strengths to a place that they're strengths, not move their strengths to a place that they're weaknesses. And I tell the story about, SAP, when the CEO of SAP was looking for human testing of software, and there was a huge shortage because human beings don't like to do the same thing over and over and over and over again all day. And he's trying to think economically, how are they going to be able to test all these companies' softwares that are being created? And he realizes he comes home looking at his son, who has, is on the spectrum, that his son loves to do the same thing over and over and over and again. The greatest weakness that society has put on his son, that he's on the spectrum, that he has Asperger's, right, now becomes a strength to SAP, and they hire thousands of people and give them hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary to test software, which they enjoy innately within their quantum being, just like you're quantumly tall and Kevin and I are quantumly short.
Right.
And now we've moved a weakness and made it a strength, and everybody feels better. We've elevated each other and celebrated each other.
Right.
So powerful. On our last call, Dave, we were talking about the consistency, how consistent you are as a human being. One thing that I've never seen you, I don't want to say talk about, but seen happen to you is you burn out. What do you think a common misconception of burning out is? Like, what's something more people need to know about burnout?
Burnout's a matter of staying in the anxiety zone too long, right? Burnout is a matter of not vacationing every day, not having an unwinding routine. Excuse me. Burnout is creating interference, right? Burnout is creating the interference. So slowly but surely, there's more and more interference, and you're not able to draw from the greatest source of light, love, and lessons at all times. See, my focus and paradigm, once it's to clear the interference, I just receive more and more energy. So I'm continuing getting away from ever burning out. And, that consistent behavior, the discipline that I have, the routine that I created, and the adaptable routine based on 4 core values of gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration, based on 5 daily practices of knowing my what, my who, my how, my now, and my why, right? Applying that. And look, I give this stuff away for free, as you guys know, right? I'm going to repeat right now, david@dmeltzer.com. I will give you this. They're in my book. I'll sign it to you, send it to you, pay for it, ship it, email, whatever you want. Just please, david@dmeltzer.com. There is no burnout in my life. I have it would almost be physically impossible for me to burn out, because as long as I stick to that routine, I think people that tell me, I got to go on 6 weeks vacation, go off the grid, etc. Why would you do that? Like, why would you want it is so far from my belief system of how to access energy and to be productive, accessible, and gracious. I vacation every day. I stop, drop, and roll every day. I don't allow myself to get outside of any interference. Like, my interference every day, my net result in a day is to decrease the amount of interference between me and that which created me, that which I'm connected to and through, and everybody else. So if I'm learning every day how to do that, to make it minutes and moments with the need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, whatever else creates resistance, then I'm in no jeopardy of burning out.
Is that why you have a sleep coach as well? Because
for sure.
sleep is okay. So Dave, I think a lot of people have a belief subconsciously or unconsciously that they are going to get worse over time. Like they're not going to function as optimally. And I, even listening to you 2 years ago, earlier today, like on my commute to the studio today, it was clear that you've gotten better, genuinely. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You've clearly gotten better.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people have the opposite belief, which self-perpetuates itself. So you're getting better and you're more accessible and productive now today as a 50, I think, what are you, 52? 53. And do you believe that at 55, you'll be even more effective than you are now?
No doubt.
Okay. So
mathematically, there's no doubt.
Okay, perfect. And I agree with that too, but people think I'm crazy. So, you know, what is underneath this and how do we help people shift that paradigm?
Embodiment. So people are confusing the temporary state that exists in the realm, the man-made construct of time. Eventually, right, the body does diminish in its capacity. And I know that there's people in the mindset realm that says that is a man-made construct as well, the idea that the body ages.
Right.
And you can see that we've learned to increase, you know, I've never seen more beautiful 80-year-old women in my life. Like, because they don't believe, they don't go into the mindset that when they're 50, they're an old person and wearing a mock, you know, and sitting on and rocking, they're staying active. And, you know, I don't know if people, you know, if that is truly the same type of mindset that I believe exists in the subconscious and unconscious, that you only get better, expand, grow, and accelerate and learn. See, I know in the mindset realm that if you're learning, you're growing, and you're only going to be better. And if you practice something, you'll only get better and better. You know, that's what excites me about what I do. That's what excited me about Bob Proctor, is that when I sat there years ago when he turned 80 and I could have retired again, and my wife is like, let's go travel the world. You know, you go at it so hard every day, you know, and I'm like, oh, I you know, give me until at least I'm 60 to change what I'm doing, you know, but because my youngest son will be going to college, right? I'm not, you know, there's no reason, you know, to travel the whole world when I want to be with my children. So I said, what can I do? And I'm watching Bob Proctor and I'm like, holy moly, right? This guy's better than he's ever been. And the funniest thing is he's still reading the same slides that he was reading 20 years ago. He hasn't even changed the slides. The only thing that's changed is not on a turnstile projector, was, you know, it's actually on a computer. But like literally the guy's reading the same slide, but he's better. I that's why I said thank you to you, because I said the same thing to Bob. You know, I was listening to you and I hope you don't take offense, but you're better now than when I met you. He's 80, traveling the world, teaching and empowering and elevating and celebrating, you know. And so for me, that's where, but I'm still grasping the concept that my body, the embodiment, can be better when I'm 80 than it is when I'm 53. I know everything else can be better, and I'm working on trying to change my perspective and see if my reality could be that we're sitting here when I'm 80 and you guys are like, Dave, like, oh my God, I remember when your arms look like that. You know, now look at yourself.
Dave, sorry, Kev, I didn't mean
No, you're good. Hammer.
I wanted to ask you about this because it's like, and do you have any regrets around the way you used to treat your mind and body because you realize the negative compound effect it's had now that you're older and older and older? Because honestly, I'm 32. Again, I'm young, but like I do have some regrets about the way I treated my body and how I didn't take sleep as seriously as I do now. Like, of course, and again, I don't live in regret. I use that as fuel to be better in the future. But what do you think you should have done better to take care of your brain and your body and your heart and your soul from a younger age?
Yeah, I don't regret it. I actually take a different perspective. Is I'm so grateful that I finally learned the lesson.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Like okay. I am like you just don't wake up and know these things, right? And look, I will articulate this again. You know, this idea of aggregation, acceleration, and compound interest of, you know, habits, it works in negative behavior's favor, right? Because when we have a negative habit, like partying, right? Creating interference in our life, we don't expect a negative result ever.
Right.
Right. And yet it aggregates on itself. And when we're 90% of the way there, we finally get an awareness of a result. And then, it gets difficult because it's doubling. And then pretty soon it's doubled and doubled and doubled. And we got a really tragic result. Well, the problem with positive habits, especially when we're younger, when we don't know what we don't know, and we have to learn the lessons by identifying pain, struggles, setbacks, failures, and mistakes. And then we get the lesson is when we have a positive behavior, and you guys know this in the realm of that you teach, right? People want instant results. They start working out with you guys, right? And 2 weeks later, they're like, I haven't lost any weight. I'm sore. Like, come on, it's the same exact math that applies. Behavior is behavior. And so I have no regrets at all. I would prefer you guys change the words that you use to, I'm so grateful that I've learned that lesson.
Right.
And I started aggregating things in the right direction and trajectory.
What lessons in particular did you finally learn where it's like, oh, I'm so grateful that I learned that lesson? Because had I not learned that lesson, I wouldn't be able to be so productive and accessible at 53.
Yeah. So number one, to prioritize my health, right? I will repeat this to everyone. When you are healthy, you get as many wishes as you want every day. And there's nothing more valuable than a wish. When you're not healthy, you only have one wish. And so to put my health, a minimum of an hour a day on my health has been the greatest lesson. And so when you put and prioritize your health, you're not going to do things to create interference with that which you already are. See, the other big nuance and lesson that I learned through the whole progression is I am healthy. I am happy. I am worthy. And I am wealthy. What am I doing to interfere with that?
Right.
See, once I shifted that paradigm, it became a great lesson, because instead of thinking I'm going to go get healthy, I'm going to go get wealthy, I'm going to go get worthy, I'm going to go get happy. What do I need to do? Where's my why? Right? I followed these values and the what, the who, the how, the now, and applied my why and realized I am all these things. What am I doing to interfere with it?
Dave, we love you. We appreciate you. I think we got to let you go. All the love, all the gratitude.
The greatest guys in the world. I'm telling you, I learned more from you two over these years, and I'm so proud of both of you. As a celebrant in the elevator, like I said, there's no greater joy in my life to have elevated others, to elevate myself, and to empower others like you two that are now empowering so many people. I celebrate you both. Congratulations, and I love you too. Thank you.
Dave, thank you so much. I just want to say this really quickly. I've had many, many mentors, and the more mentors I've had, the more and more I appreciate what you are doing for Kevin and I, because when it comes to the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, your consistency and your persistency is truly unmatched. And I just admire that very much. I listened to your thing. It was about coaches, trainers, and mentors, and the difference of them. And you're all three for us. So I just want to say thank you again. Seriously.
Thank you, my brothers. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. The greatest mentees in the world, Kevin Palmieri and Alan Lazarus. And I learned how to pronounce his name after all these years. And that was 3 for 3. I didn't even scoop it up. All right, everyone. It is Thursday. That's Thankful Thursdays. Remember, do not take for granted what other people are wishing for. Be as thankful as possible. Do not regret anything. Just find the light, the love, and the lessons in it. David@dmeltzer.com if you want those 5 daily practices, my ebook, audiobook, or even a signed copy sent to you and paid for by me. Not a problem. David@dmeltzer.com. It is Thankful Thursdays, which means be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow.